In today's video, I want to share 5 ways in which I suck as a language learner and as a polyglot. Hi, I'm Witek, I'm 29 years old and I come from Poland. I've been learning foreign languages since I can remember, and I now speak 6 of them. Among those are English and German, in which I've earned C2 certificates. That may sound like an achievement, and perhaps on paper it is, but I'm honestly not sure how impressive it really is. And I have a feeling that by the time you finish this video, you might not be so sure either. Because this isn't going to be a video about my suboptimal techniques or questionable learning methods. Instead, I want to talk about the personal side of all this. The deeper patterns, the insecurities, and the stuff that quietly influences me when everything looks fine on the surface. So let's dive into the 5 ways in which I genuinely struggle with language learning. Number 1. I'm largely driven by insecurity. Let's start with what's underneath everything. Insecurity. That might not be what you expect from someone who's made a YouTube channel about learning languages, but it's real. There's a quote I came across once that really stuck with me. It says, "People don't rise to the best version they can become. They fall to the worst version they can accept." That idea resonated with me deeply. Because if I'm being honest, a lot of my language learning is powered by the fact that I just can't tolerate the idea of being bad at languages. Even though, paradoxically, I make mistakes all the time, and I know that I do that. When I sit down to study, it often feels less like I'm building something new and more like I'm making up for some gap. Like I'm constantly trying to pay down this imagined or not knowledge debt that I have accrued over time. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many days, maybe the majority, in which I really enjoy the process. There are moments of joy and fascination, especially when I come across an interesting word or an unexpected cultural insight. But somewhere in the background lurks this constant drive to not fall behind, to not disappoint myself. And that brings me straight to the next point. 2. I have massive imposter syndrome. This is probably one of the biggest ongoing issues for me. Imposter syndrome is something that I personally struggle with, and language learning tends to bring it out even more in me. Even after getting C2 certificates in 2 different languages, I still focus more on what I can't do rather than on what I can. When I have a conversation in a foreign language, I tend to remember the awkward moments, the times I messed up the word order, the phrase that didn't come out quite right, and the things I got right. I do notice them, and sometimes I even feel proud, but those moments are often fleeting compared to how long I can dwell on what went wrong. Sometimes I even wonder if I just got lucky on my exams. Maybe the questions happened to suit me. Maybe the examiner was in a good mood that day. It sounds silly, but that's what my brain does. So I keep thinking, how many certificates would I need to feel truly confident? And my honest guess is a lot, which makes it worse because if those exams don't impress me anymore, then what will? Strangely enough, I'm impressed when other people reach a high level, but when I do, I somehow convince myself that it doesn't really count. And when I think of C2 exams that I want to take in the future, I still think it will be a challenge to pass them. 3. I never really overcame the fear of speaking. This might surprise you, people who are right now seeing me talk about languages online, but I still feel nervous when I speak foreign languages. Some social settings are easier for me to deal with than others. It depends on the context, but the fear is still there. I'm the kind of person who's both shy and extroverted. I enjoy connecting with people and I get energy from good conversations. But ideally, those people are already my friends. Strangers are a different story, especially when they're native speakers or otherwise clearly more advanced in the language than I am. German is especially tough for me in this regard. It's one of my strongest languages, yet it's also the one that makes me the most self-conscious. Part of that is that I used to be almost bilingual in German. I used it a lot growing up, but I never had the native accent. My younger sister did. And now it feels like I'm hopelessly working to regain something that I should have never lost. It doesn't help that the Germans that I stumble upon speak excellent English. Many of them switch to English automatically, which is understandable, but it makes it hard to get the practice I want and need. So when I chat up Germans, I often have to insist on staying in German. And even though it's uncomfortable, I push myself to do it because I know that's the only way to maintain and improve. Usually, I feel good about it afterwards. I learn something new and I'm glad I kept going. The hardest part is to start speaking German or decide to switch to it. Once I get going, it gets easier. And by the time the conversation is over, I often feel fine or even proud for having done it. But taking the first step is always a bit of a hurdle. Number 4. I hate making mistakes, even though I know they're necessary. You've heard it 100 times. Mistakes are essential to learning. They're how you grow. And I fully believe that, intellectually at least. But emotionally, I still hate making them, even when I know it's fine. Even when no one cares. Even when the mistake actually leads to a useful correction. It just doesn't feel good. There is always this slight embarrassment, even if no one reacts badly. And this isn't something you fix once and then never deal with again. It's something that comes up constantly. Sometimes I do have the mental energy to say the thing, take the risk, accept the correction. Other times I stay quiet, I let the opportunity pass. I protect myself instead of pushing myself. I've heard of people setting a goal of making 100 mistakes a day for themselves on purpose to accelerate growth. And I love that idea. I think it's powerful, but I haven't reached the point where I can truly live by it. 5. My results don't actually come quickly. Finally, let's talk about speed, or in my case, the lack of it. I think I'm somewhat okay learning languages, but over time, very slowly. It took me about 15 years from starting Spanish to feeling somewhat fluent. With French, I've been learning it on and off for 5 years, and I'm still somewhere in the intermediate range. Romanian and Russian, I've been learning them for several years too, and the results are not flashy. As for Indonesian, I took it up and then dropped it twice. Same with Chinese, let's say 1.5 times. I even went as far as learning the Armenian and Korean alphabets and then promptly forgot them. The thing is, I don't focus on speed, I don't cram, I don't aim to reach a high level in 3 months, and maybe that's okay, maybe that's sustainable and it works for my lifestyle. But sometimes I wonder, if I really wanted to, could I learn any faster? Could I become fluent in 6 months? Could I push myself harder and see what happens? Probably, but I haven't tested that. So how would I know I have this in me? Take Italian. I made great progress early on and then I stopped, took a few months off. Why? I don't think I've lost interest. I didn't run out of materials. I just let it slide. And I've recommended so many intermediate resources on this channel. I could definitely find a podcast for intermediate Italian speakers. I've talked about how to stay consistent, so why don't I take my own advice? I don't have a satisfying answer to that question. So yeah, those are the 5 main ways I struggle with language learning. I'm sure there are more, probably a lot more, but these are the ones that are the most obvious to me because I often think about them. They show up in how I think, how I speak, how I study, and they've been around for long enough that I got to know them pretty well. Despite all that, or maybe because of all that, I keep going, I still show up, I still love languages, and I still think you don't have to be perfect or particularly confident to make progress. In fact, what helps me move forward isn't the absence of all these things, it's learning how to work with them. I don't wait to feel confident or ready. I try to use whatever I've got, even if what I've got is mostly insecurity, shyness, and imposter syndrome. So if any of that sounds familiar, if you see yourself in anything that I've shared, I hope this video helped you feel less alone. And if you want to follow my journey more closely, you can sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the description. Or you can watch this video next. I don't know what it is, but YouTube does, and YouTube thinks this is the best video for you to watch next. I wouldn't disobey YouTube. I'll see you on the other side.